Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and in today's video we're going to have a look at some Tier 8 Soviet heavy tanks, kicking off with the infamous IS-3. So, the Soviets get two regular Tier 8 heavy tanks, being the IS-3 and the KV-4. The IS-3 sits on the more mobile, less heavily armoured, I guess, line, and the KV-4 sits on the more heavily armoured but less mobile line. Now, when I say more or less heavily armoured, what I really mean is the KV-4 has thicker armour, and generally speaking that line tends to have thicker armour, but the other line tends to have quite a lot of sloping and angling on its armour, and you can see there the angling on the IS-3 and the very distinctive pike nose that the tank has. So we are here on Live Oak's map. It's a Tier 8 game, so things are looking like there might be a good game in hand. And we are here with Zinep, who is our driver for today. Now, if you are in a heavy tank and you spawn on this map, it's pretty common for you to come into the town over here. There is another way of going. You can, of course, go down by the train tracks. Typically that tends to be where medium tanks go to hang out, and if we look at the team composition, the friendly team has more medium tanks, so you might expect that they would win that side of the map. Going straight through the middle isn't really an option, because straight through the middle, hello Mr. 110. Ooh, there are those Chinese fuel tanks. Going straight through the middle of the map, there's a blasted lake in the way. Now I should point out the 110 isn't actually particularly prone to fire. That was a kind of lucky shot there, and there's a second lucky shot as Zinep takes out the guy's ammo rack. Now, thinking about it, it's a good chance that ammo rack got taken out with the fire. The fire burned for a few ticks there, and it's entirely possible that maybe a couple of modules were taken out, the guy repaired one of them, and then his ammo rack got taken out, which is a little unlucky. For some reason there's a T-34 on the enemy team. Just looking at the reason, that's because he's platooned up with the same tier light tank, which of course gets different matchmaking, so there we go. And there's a 112 that just doesn't have the penetration to reliably penetrate the IS-3 from the front without loading premium ammunition. Same story for the IS-2 over there. So far Zinep has absolutely wrecked a 110. The guy was also horrendously angling his armour. The 110 player, the driver, did get unlucky, and Zinep got lucky, but he didn't also play that situation particularly well. He certainly wasn't making the most of the 110's armour. Now, if we look at the tanks that Zinep is facing, T-34, 112, Tiger 2 and the T-29, the one that's the most dangerous there is the Tiger 2, easily. 225mm of average penetration, assuming he's packing the top gun. There goes the 112, makes penetrating the frontal pike nose of the IS-3 relatively straightforward, but none of the enemy team is taking advantage of the fact that Zinep was reloading there. And if we actually look at this, there is Zinep and a friendly T-34, and I think there's another friend behind him, T-29, although the T-29's been badly beaten up. They are, and they have been, horrendously outnumbered by the enemy team here, but the enemy team is not pushing their advantage. Or which means the friendly team is absolutely wrecking them on the other flank, and that's just not going to make this go well. It also appears that the enemy team, aren't particularly good at shooting straight, as it takes that Tiger 2 putting a shot into Zinep's side for someone to finally do damage to his IS-3. There's a fire, premium fire extinguisher puts it out pretty darn quick. So that's not a massive problem, but you know, Russian tanks do have a reputation for burning fairly well. Sorry, Soviet tanks, I should say, have a reputation for burning fairly well. Bit unlucky in that shot didn't hit home. This gun isn't fantastically accurate. But having said that, considering the beating that Zinep's taken here, I guess he can't really complain about such things, and goodbye Mr. T-25/2. Not that he was really a massive threat to Zinep here, but it's one fewer people putting shots into his flank. Tiger 2 dies for his efforts. He's the only person who has really posed a credible threat to Zinep this entire game. And suddenly, the IS-2, T-34 and T-29 aren't feeling quite so clever anymore. Yeah, that's right, you should have pushed and done something when you still had the friends to push and do something with. As it stands, you didn't, so you're gonna die. There goes the T-34, there goes the T-29, and that just leaves this IS-2 and a light tank over at the enemy team's base, and Zinep finally takes a damaging hit there. Looks like that one might have gone through, there we go, through the pike nose, because it was at a bad angle. And Zinep takes out the enemy IS-2, and that's the game. And if you look at the scoreline, that was the very definition of a whitewash. Let's go and have a look at the results. So there we go, that was a rather quick game, and Zinep picks up an ace tanker, demolitionist for killing a tank via ammo rack, although he actually killed 2 tanks with an ammo rack, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Bruiser, fighter, duelist, fighter, fire for effect, shell-proof, cool-headed steel wall, and a high caliber. Now, if you remember back, we saw Zinep kill the 110 with an ammo rack, so we know he did that. But he also, if you actually look at it, killed the 112 with an ammo rack. If you actually have a look at the amount of damage he did, 1,155 damage with 1 shot. That screams ammo rack if ever anything did. So Zinep did get very lucky there, but the enemy team also did not play that particularly well. 5,620 damage done, 5 kills, 1,650 base experience. Easily coming at the top of either team by either damage done or experience, and the only person who during that entire game posed even a vaguely credible threat was the enemy Tiger 2. He only managed to do 1,300 damage before being taken out. The enemy team got roundly thrashed. That's the only thing you can really say about that. 13 shots fired, 12 hits, 12 pens for that damage count. Received 20 hits, of which 3 penetrated, 17 did not, for 4,765 damage, blocked by his armor. Spotted 2 enemy tanks, damaged 7, killed 5, and got an itty-bitty bit of spotting damage into the bargain. Interestingly there, Zinep did not load any APCR, and I don't just mean for that game, I mean he didn't have any loaded on the tank. But frankly, the IS-3 doesn't really need it, if you're going to be honest. With firing armor piercing, the gun is perfectly capable of absolutely wrecking face, regardless of the matchmaking, so that's not a big thing. Anyway, that was Zinep in a 5-minute game in the IS-3, just demolishing them. Absolutely demolishing them. So let's move on to the next game. Alright, here we go with our second offering. We're switching to another Tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. This is the IS-6. Now I should point out this is a patch 9.10 game, so this is before the IS-6 got a HD model. When it did get a HD model, it got buffed, which is bizarre because it really didn't need it. I suspect the reason is that giving it the HD model, if Wargaming wanted to be accurate to the history of the thing, they had to kind of buff its armor in places, and with a regular tank, maybe they would have nerfed it in some other areas just to balance out those buffs, but it's a premium tank, and as soon as you suggest nerfing anything about a premium tank, even if it's to counterbalance a buff, half of the World of Tanks community has an aneurysm. So maybe there's that. Anyway, for those who don't know, this is the premium Tier 8 Soviet heavy tank. I should actually say one of the premium Tier 8 Soviet heavy tanks. It's the one that, at the time of recording this, is constantly available in the gift shop. The other two that I can think of off the top of my head that have been available are the KV-5, which this thing basically replaced, and the IS-3A, which has only been available on special occasions. Hello, Mr. 112. There's that weak lower plate of yours. There is another Soviet Tier 8 premium heavy tank coming along. It's called the Kirovets 1. It's basically a stock IS-3 with a slightly different armor configuration. Oh, you sneaky little... Good lord, flanking around Mr. Goodshot here. Cheeky little IS-6. So, the IS-6 is a damn good machine. But anyway, enough of that. We're here on... Is this Stalingrad? Yes, this is Stalingrad. And Mr. Goodshot has already been doing a bunch of damage while I've been faffing around. And there you can see the sort of armor you get on the IS-6 as Mr. Goodshot fails to penetrate his counterpart even in the side of the turret, because screw you. Driver's hatch at the time when Mr. Goodshot played this game was a weak spot. This is no longer the case, but unfortunately the guy moves a little bit, the shot misses, and you can see the mark on the enemy's armor there. That shot, however, goes true to its mark. Basically, the IS-6 is It's one of those tanks with limited matchmaking and this kind of derpy old Soviet/Chinese 122mm gun. But this machine gets the best version of this gun to be found on any non-tank destroyer. If you compare this to the gun on the 112, the T-34-3, all those tanks, this guy's hot. Oh, whatever. Then the IS-6 gets the best aiming stats with this gun, best rate of fire, etc. So you can see Mr. Goodshot's actually has 2 marks of excellence on his gun barrel, so he clearly likes the IS-6 and does well in it. And why not? The IS-6 is a good machine. But if we have a look at how this game is progressing, the friendly team, there's... So we saw the lower plate weakness of the 112 earlier on, and there's that fuel tank. Oh yeah. So... If we have a look at how the match is progressing, Mr. Goodshot's team is 5-9 down. And there are bad guys coming at them from all directions. This is a bad situation to be in. Mr. Goodshots actually has a HE round loaded for that Borsig. As it is, the Borsig backs away, and he could take him out with an AP shell anyway. So that HE round is actually used to take out the SU-100Y. Ooh. Meanwhile, that WZ-131 is trying his luck and does actually manage to get a penetration onto Mr. Goodshots, who has decided that he's had enough of this, and Mr. Goodshot is going to go for the kill. And he actually sets the WZ-131 on fire. There's been quite a few fires and ammo racks in these 2 games, I know. But now he is trying to line up a shot on the ARL-44. That, of course, is the tank with the HD model, and I'm kind of surprised that shot penetrated. The ARL gets 120mm of frontal armour at a good angle. And that plate is definitely a good angle. I mean, the shot into the side I expect to penetrate, but not straight through the front plate like that. Anyway, it did. He's dead. It's all good. That 131 is now a one-shot for Mr. Goodshot, as he has been for some time. There's a heat round, and he is dead. There's a Cheeto in the background there, who can penetrate Mr. Goodshot in the bum, which is slightly suboptimal. There's the LTTB, Mr. Goodshot takes out. And if you actually look at what tanks are remaining on the enemy team, yeah, sure, Mr. Goodshot and his KV-4 friend are horrendously outnumbered, but most of the tanks left on the enemy team are going to really struggle to penetrate the IS-6. Now, here's a Super Pershing, here's the kind of... the interesting point. Is the Super Pershing going to double tap 2 and load APCR? It would be the correct thing to do in this situation because he is facing off against a couple of heavily armoured opponents, and you want to make sure you win the game. So people can complain about it as much as they want, but firing APCR here is the correct ammunition choice. The AP penetration on the Super Pershing is really quite naff if you don't. It's even worse than the penetration on the IS-6 itself at 170, I believe, for the Super Pershing. And as it is, this Super Pershing and KV-4 are failing miserably to actually hurt each other, so Mr. Goodshot has to put in another round. And at this point, the KV-4 could load HE and finish this guy off, but there we go. What's the betting? He's not going to do that. Rudy to the front of him, Super Pershing behind. Here Goodshot is, stuck in the middle with KV-4, and that shot, unfortunately, is a miss. He loads a HE round here, should be able to polish off the Super Pershing. The Super Pershing himself appears to be loading HE. Maybe he didn't bring any APCR to the party, which would be a terrible decision. And although the KV-4 goes down, killed by the enemy Sparpanzer, Mr. Goodshot takes down the Super Pershing. So that leaves Sparpanzer 1C, who on Stalingrad in a light tank is on 7 kills, so well played to him. Ooh, no. A Cheeto and a Rudy. Now this is a slightly awkward situation. Mr. Goodshot clearly has the superior tank, especially on this map. However, there are 3 of them. If they have a few brain cells to rub together, and if they work together, notice the big if, they could quite happily outflank Mr. Goodshot and do him a whole world of trouble. There's the Sparpanzer 1C, being a bit brave. Now he's a bit dead. 2 of them left, but if you notice the ammo count, Mr. Goodshot is actually down to 4 rounds of ammo. This is his 4 APCR rounds. Rudy is being a little optimistic. Rudy was being a little optimistic. And that just leaves the enemy Cheeto, who we last saw over at E8. Now, we don't know where this guy actually is. Maybe he's gone back to his base. Maybe he's gone toward friendly base, sorry. Maybe he's still over where he was last spotted. We don't honestly know. And the IS-6 is a very, very good machine, but he doesn't really want to chase a Cheeto around the map all day, so he goes to the capture circle, forces this guy out of whatever cover he's hiding in. As it is, the Cheeto gets spotted out, and now we're going to play an elaborate game of Kiss Chase. Driving round the side of the buildings. Mr. Goodshot isn't really fast enough to catch up with the Cheeto, but the Cheeto isn't really fast enough to run away from Mr. Goodshot. And frankly, in this situation, I would be very tempted to just sit in the capture circle. Even if the Cheeto loads his premium armor-piercing ammo, he would really struggle to penetrate Mr. Goodshot, so Mr. Goodshot does what I would have done, and indeed what one of his teammates advises him to do, just go and sit in the capture circle. You then force the Cheeto to either A, engage you, or B, lose. And we want the Cheeto to engage us because, well, Mr. Goodshot would absolutely murder him. Cheeto pops out, there's shot number 1, leaving this guy on 428 health, but Mr. Goodshot's gun hits on average for 390. Cheeto has enough health to absorb 2 more shots. 1 more shot now, and if you notice Mr. Goodshot's ammo count, you can see how this might be a slightly dicey situation. Although, frankly, even if Mr. Goodshot flubs this last round, I don't see how the enemy Cheeto is going to win. Mr. Goodshot is capping, and even if the Cheeto were to come in for a ram, he's in a Cheeto versus an IS-6. He's got 20 health, Mr. Goodshot has 530. I mean, it's just never going to work out. So, this should be wrapped up. I'm just actually going to speed this along at the end, because we're basically just watching an IS-6 sit in the capture circle, while a Cheeto racks up the courage to get himself executed, and that was the game. So, let's go and have a look at the results of this one. Well, gosh, that's quite an impressive haul of medals, I will be honest. In fact, I'm not even sure if I recognise some of these. So, Mr. Goodshot got Ace Tanker, Hand of God, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Shellproof. Is that Ranger? Nadine's Medal. That's the one you get for killing light tanks. Steel Wall, High Caliber, Top Gun. Radley Walters Medal. Of course, he got 9 kills. You get Radley Walters for 8 or 9 kills. And a medal you don't see very often at all, even in these sorts of replays. A Fadin's Medal, which is awarded for destroying the last enemy vehicle in the battle, with the last shell remaining in the player's tank. I believe I have one of these. I got it playing artillery. Mr. Goodshot did it the old-fashioned way, playing in his IS-6. Yeah. Whew, hot damn. That was a good game. 6,781 damage done, 9 kills, 1,957 base experience. Yes, of course, he was top tier, but even so, you can throw whatever mitigating circumstances you like into the mix. Mr. Goodshot's team was naff, and he did incredibly well. Commiserations to the enemy, number 2 platoon, those light tanks, tier 7 light tanks, carried their team as hard as they could, but unfortunately they weren't quite able to push them over the finishing line. All 30 of Mr. Big Shot's rounds were fired, of course, 27 hits, 22 pens, and 1 splash damage with that HE round for that damage count. 30 hits received, 8 penetrations, 22 non-pens for 4,090 damage blocked by his armour. 1 enemy tank spotted, 12 damaged, 9 killed, 50 assistance damage, 77 base capture points, and 1.8 kilometers travelled. Now, this wasn't the sort of ruffle stomp over in 5 minutes that the previous game was, but considering that Mr. Big Shot racked up 9 kills and almost 7,000 damage, the game was only actually 9 minutes long. So although it wasn't ridiculously quick, it was relatively quick, given the amount of damage that Mr. Big Shot did. 116,500, I'll get my words right in a minute, credits earned. Once you take away all the costs, that was only a 60,000 credit profit. Worth pointing out, that is with a standard account. With a premium account, the numbers would have been 175,000 and 118,000 respectively. High ammunition resupply costs because Mr. Big Shot fired all 5 of his APCR rounds, but that was only because he ran out of ammunition. He wasn't exactly spamming the gold button. 1,957 base experience, earned plus 97 free XP, plus 196 experience because it's a tier 8 premium tank, and so he earned over 2,200 total experience with a standard account without any sort of double or any of that rubbish, which is an incredible result. So, very well done to both of our Soviet tier 8 heavy tank drivers today. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my others and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.